The story begins with a girl named Ryan falling down the stairs, believing she is about to die. As she falls, a lady named Sharon yells at her, saying that an idiot like her should just die quickly. Ryan believes she might already be dead. Just then, maids scream her name in terror. Ryan lies there, recalling how her stepmother, Sharon, has always hated her, though she never understood why. A young Ryan cries, clutching a doll in fear, but a kind maid gently strokes her head to comfort her. Ryan clings to the maid, crying even harder. Suddenly, she opens her eyes to find herself lying in bed. She looks around the room and notices the same doll her brother gave her long ago. Realizing its significance, she rushes to the mirror, stunned. This isn't a dream. She exclaims excitedly that she has been reincarnated as a duke's daughter, calling it being born with a golden spoon. A maid enters, chiding Ryan with concern, reminding her that she should be resting after a fall. She helps Ryan back to bed. Ryan apologizes, calling the maid by her name, Leah. Leah suggests she rest while she fetches a new towel. After Leah leaves, Sharon enters the room. She is annoyed to see Ryan alive and expresses disbelief that Ryan survived, calling her so tenacious. Hearing this, Ryan becomes furious and vows not to let Sharon get away with it once she recovers. Ryan realizes her personality seems different than before. She recalls being a timid girl, always confined to her room, constantly bullied by her stepmother and new stepsister. However, the shock of falling down the stairs triggered memories of her past life. In her previous life, she was a poor farm girl who loved to read, but died young in an accident. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself in a novel she had read before. A novel she owned 3 copies of. The story of Ramona tells the tale of Ramona Alta, the daughter of a poor engineer, who discovers her hidden identity. It was a popular romance novel among female readers, especially for the love story between Ramona and the male lead, Theodore. Now, Ryan realizes she is actually Adrianna Crescent, Theodore Crescent's younger sister, the male lead. Although she is a supporting character, she is still the Duke's daughter. However, her happiness is short-lived. She remembers that Adrianna dies an early death in the story due to her cruel stepmother and stepsister. Frustrated, Ryan laments that she will die before she even gets to enjoy her privileged life. After her death, her brother Theodore will eventually avenge her, inherit the title of Duke Crescent, and marry Ramona, leading to a happy ending. But for Ryan, none of that matters. What about her own fate? Ryan is furious, realizing everyone in the story has a happy ending except her. She refuses to accept such a fate. She notices that while she used to be afraid of her stepmother, she no longer feels scared. Living 2 lives has made her stronger. Determined to change her destiny, she decides she needs allies. With her brother sent away to school due to her stepmother's scheming and her father deceased, she has no support at home except for her new personal maid, Leah. All the other maids were chosen by her stepmother. Understanding she cannot rely on anyone in the household, she plans to seek help from outside. Her stepmother cares too much about her reputation to harm her in public, making the upcoming debutante ball the perfect opportunity for her to build connections. Since she knows the world well, she believes she can find people who will support her. Ryan, determined not to die easily, sets her goal to survive and live an invulnerable life as someone born with a golden spoon. She prepares herself, checking her hair, makeup, and dress. Although her dress is old and simple because her stepmother hasn't ordered new ones for her in years, she decides to make do with what she has. She won't let anything stop her from surviving. She found a suitable dress by altering an old one she had worn since she was little. She felt it was a pity not to have a better dress. However, she reminds herself that she is still the Duke's daughter and vows never to let anyone take advantage of her again. She embraces her new beginning as Adrianna Crescent, determined to change her fate. Meanwhile, her stepmother and Sharon are cheerfully conversing with a man. Ryan secretly observes them and notices their pleasant expressions. She then boldly walks up, curtsies to the second Prince Leupold, and introduces herself as Adrianna Crescent, the eldest daughter of the Duchy of Crescent. Leupold recognizes her, and both her stepmother and Sharon are shocked to see her there. Her stepmother frantically questions why she appeared so suddenly. Ryan, maintaining a cheerful and confident demeanor, explained that she was in a good mood and decided to take a walk in the garden when she saw a special guest arrive and felt it would be impolite not to greet him. She then abruptly reminded them that it was improper not to greet His Highness the Prince. Her stepmother hesitantly agreed, Sharon, unable to retort, bit her lip in anger and was about to lash out. But her stepmother quickly calmed her down, whispering that they must maintain composure in front of the prince. Frustrated, Sharon silently glared at Ryan. Unable to respond, Ryan sat beside Prince Leupold, who politely greeted her and expressed concern for her health. It was widely known in high society that she was recuperating from a supposed heart condition. Ryan continued the act, thanking him and attributing her recovery to her stepmother's care. Leupold expressed relief and hoped to see her at future social events. He thought to himself that this was why Sharon, not Ryan, had been chosen for the engagement. Ryan's stepmother seized the opportunity to bring up Sharon's engagement to the prince. However, Leupold clarified that he had not called off the engagement, but he considered Sharon too young for marriage. Sharon looked visibly worried and tried to change the subject. The stepmother mentioned that the title of Duke Crescent had been vacant since the former duke's passing. Leupold suddenly pressed the issue, suggesting it should be discussed after the next heir was decided. Ryan found his indirect probing interesting, noting that the eldest son, Theodore, was still at school, while the second son, Rudolph, was too young to inherit the title. He reassured the stepmother that there was no need to rush, and she reluctantly agreed. Ryan pondered her family situation. Her brother, Theodore, was the rightful heir as he was born to her deceased parents. Ryan was the second child. Sharon, on the other hand, was merely her stepmother's daughter, with no ducal blood. After Rudolph's birth, their stepmother, Marianne, had been scheming to make Rudolph the next duke while treating Ryan cruelly, sending Theodore away, isolating Ryan, and attempting to marry Sharon off to the second Prince Leupold. However, Leupold was not easily manipulated. He abruptly reminded Marianne that Theodore was still the rightful heir and Rudolph was too young, making it clear the duke's position was undecided. Ryan realized that if Rudolph became duke, he would marry Sharon, but if Theodore inherited the title, she might be expected to marry someone of high standing. However, she had no intention of marrying him. Her sole goal was to live a long and comfortable life as a noble. She saw marrying into the royal family as a threat to her survival. As Leupold prepared to leave, Ryan decided that while she wouldn't marry him, she would keep him close as a safety net to ensure her comfortable and luxurious life. Just as Leupold was about to leave in his carriage, Ryan ran after him, calling for him to wait. Surprised, Leupold asked what was wrong. Ryan, slightly out of breath, handed him a small box, explaining she had forgotten to give it to him earlier. Leupold opened it and asked what it was. Ryan explained it was a hairpin for Princess Cynthia. She mentioned that due to her ill health, she hadn't been able to attend social events and thus couldn't give it to her personally. Since Leupold was already here, she requested him to deliver it to the princess on her behalf. She then apologized for her recklessness in chasing after him. Leupold, impressed by Ryan's gesture, asked if the hairpin was truly for his sister, Cynthia. Opening the box, he recognized it as a rare and valuable hairpin made by a famous artisan. He asked Ryan if she was sure about gifting such a precious item. Ryan smiled and assured him that the hairpin would suit Cynthia's silver hair better than her own black hair. Leupold accepted the gift and promised to give it to Cynthia, saying she would be delighted. Ryan thanked him, and Leupold departed in his carriage. As Ryan walked back, pleased with her plan, she noticed a maid, Leah, watching her from behind a tree. Ryan called out to her, asking what she was doing there. Leah excitedly asked if Ryan had managed to give the hairpin. Ryan confidently confirmed. Leah expressed relief and surprise at Ryan's improvement, recalling how she had been weak and bedridden not long ago. She praised her for not only taking a walk today, but also confidently conversing with the second prince. Ryan announced her plans to stay healthy from now on, take more walks, and eat properly. Leah then curiously asked when Ryan had learned to sew so well, as she had suddenly decided to meet the prince, took out an old dress, and transformed it into something new. Ryan winked playfully, attributing her newfound skills to her fall down the stairs. Leah, puzzled, asked what she meant by inside. She stopped abruptly upon seeing her stepmother and Sharon waiting for her. Leah bowed to greet them, and Ryan immediately realized they were waiting for her. Sharon angrily questioned Ryan about why she was chasing after the prince. Ryan quickly pondered, did Sharon see her run by from the window? But she didn't expect Sharon to have noticed the moment she gave a gift to the prince. To cover it up, Ryan feigned panic, saying she was just sad because His Highness the Prince was leaving. Sharon scoffed, accusing her of running out in a hurry and called her a fool. Her stepmother reprimanded Ryan, saying that as a duke's daughter, running around like that was both undignified and shameful. Ryan feigned timidity and apologized, saying she just thought His Highness the Prince was too handsome and wanted to see him up close one last time. Sharon was still dissatisfied, accusing Ryan of trying to seduce the prince and telling her to give up on that idea, declaring that she herself would become the crown princess. Ryan feigned panic, denying such thoughts, insisting that His Highness the Prince was more suited for someone as beautiful as Sharon. Sharon smugly agreed, and her stepmother also praised Ryan for knowing her place. But deep down, Ryan was secretly snickering, finding the situation amusing. Her stepmother said that since Ryan claimed to have her covered, she must now dine with the family in the dining room instead of eating alone. Ryan was shocked to hear about the dining room, but didn't object. As Sharon and her stepmother left, Sharon angrily complained that she didn't want to eat looking at Ryan's face. Her stepmother sternly whispered for her to be quiet, explaining that since Prince Leupold had seen Ryan walking normally, they couldn't lock her in her room anymore. Sharon, flustered, still protested, but her stepmother insisted they had no choice. Ryan secretly snickered, thinking that she could hear their conversation clearly and that she didn't want to eat with them either. It made her feel nauseous. A few days later, while everyone was dining together in the dining room, a maid delivered an invitation. As soon as Sharon heard the news, her face lit up with excitement. Upon hearing this, the stepmother then revealed that the palace had invited all members of the Duke Crescent family. When distributing the invitations, the maid, Leah, handed one to Ryan, which surprised her. Seeing this, her stepmother immediately assumed it was a mistake and demanded Leah hand it over, thinking it was for Rudolph. However, Ryan insisted the invitation was addressed to her. Her stepmother glared at her angrily. But before her stepmother could react, Sharon snatched the invitation, questioning how someone as foolish as Ryan could receive an invitation from the palace. After reading it, Sharon was shocked to find that the invitation was from Princess Cynthia. Her stepmother was equally bewildered, not understanding why the princess would invite Ryan. Ryan demanded Sharon return her invitation. Sharon, frustrated, threw the invitation at her, yelling that it was absurd and unfair. Seeing Sharon's growing frustration, her stepmother quickly soothed her, suggesting they order the most fashionable and outstanding gown for her, and reminded her to stay calm as stress could affect her. Ryan, with an innocent face, also asked her stepmother for a new gown. However, her stepmother refused her request, telling her to wear what she already had. Ryan explained that her old gowns no longer fit, and the rest were casual wear, unsuitable for a royal event. She suddenly pointed out that dressing shabbily could damage the Crescent family's reputation. Her stepmother reluctantly agreed to order a gown for her, which annoyed Sharon even more. Ryan smiled brightly and thanked her, hiding her true feelings. Ryan returned to her room, feeling frustrated and exhausted from feigning obedience. She slammed the door shut and sighed, struggling to maintain her facade. She reminded herself that she had to continue playing the fool to prevent her stepmother and Sharon from suspecting her true intentions. However, she noted that her plan was progressing faster than expected. Prince Leupold had successfully delivered her gift to Princess Cynthia, and it was already showing results. Ryan read Princess Cynthia's invitation, in which the princess expressed appreciation for her loyalty and friendship and hoped to deepen their connection. Ryan chuckled, considering it a success. She was now entering the next phase of her plan. She believed that befriending Cynthia would help her build valuable connections and was determined to do her best. A few days later, Leah informed Ryan that the gown she had ordered from the boutique had arrived. An excited Ryan had the gown brought to her room, but upon seeing it, both she and Leah were shocked by its poor quality and cheap appearance. A disappointed Ryan realized this was a deliberate ploy by her stepmother to embarrass her at the palace. However, she refused to give up. She firmly asked Leah for a sewing kit, declaring that they would alter the dress. Leah was shocked at the thought of altering such an ugly dress, but Ryan was adamant. She knew that if she wore this disgraceful outfit, her stepmother would use this to spread rumors about her mental state and ensure she could never leave the house again. Ryan was determined not to fall into her stepmother's trap again and prepared to alter the dress herself. Ryan examined the poorly designed dress, noticing that despite its unsightly appearance, the fabric was of high quality. Confident in her alteration abilities, she declared, "The patient still has the will to live." Leah, impressed by Ryan's determination, offered to help. Knowing they would have to work through the night, Ryan asked Leah to thread the needles, preparing for an all-night sewing session. The next morning, Ryan was exhausted and had fallen asleep on the dress. Leah urgently woke her, apologizing profusely, and informed her that her stepmother and Sharon were about to leave for the royal palace. Shocked, Ryan rushed downstairs in her nightgown. Sharon looked impatient, seeing her so disheveled. At such a critical moment, when questioned, Ryan calmly replied that she had no suitable clothes to wear. Her stepmother feigned innocence, saying Ryan must not have liked the dress she provided, implying she should just stay behind. Sharon was overjoyed and hurriedly followed her mother, ready to leave Ryan behind. However, just as they were leaving, Ryan showed a cold smirk, indicating this setback was merely the beginning of her grand plan. Ryan stepped out of the carriage and walked towards the palace entrance when a guard stopped her, asking to see her invitation. She confidently handed over the invitation. The guard, greatly surprised after seeing it, announced her arrival. Lady Adrianna Crescent has arrived. She was elegantly dressed, exuding an aura of confidence. Ryan walked into the hall, drawing everyone's attention. Guests murmured, surprised by her appearance. Many had heard that the eldest daughter of the Crescent family was unwell and had been living in seclusion, yet she looked perfectly fine. Some began to doubt whether the rumors of her illness were true. Meanwhile, in a corner, the stepmother and Sharon were dumbfounded to see Ryan. The stepmother incredulously questioned why Ryan was there, while Sharon panicked, urging her mother to think of something. Seeing their reaction, Ryan secretly reveled in this small victory. Just then, Princess Cynthia approached her, greeting her warmly and expressing her happiness that she could come. She took Ryan's hands and confessed she would have been very disappointed if she hadn't come. Ryan noticed the hairpin she had gifted Princess Cynthia adorning her hair, her face beaming with joy. She humbly replied that she was very happy to receive the invitation. Princess Cynthia was equally delighted, thanking Ryan for the exquisite gift and praising her fashion sense. She revealed she had always wanted an accessory made by that artisan, but it was very difficult to obtain. To further their friendship, Princess Cynthia invited Ryan to a small tea party after the event, and Ryan happily accepted. A short while later, a group of young men approached Ryan. One of them introduced himself as Bryson, a vassal of the Count. He reminded her that they had met when they were young and complimented her on how much more beautiful and charming she had become. Ryan smiled gracefully and thanked him. Meanwhile, the stepmother and Sharon watched Ryan becoming increasingly popular and admired. Burning with jealousy, that night, Sharon was furious with Ryan, yelling at her and questioning why she attended when she had said she wouldn't. Ryan feigned innocence and timidly apologized, though inwardly she scoffed at the accusation. The stepmother suspiciously asked Ryan where she got that elegant dress. Ryan innocently replied that it was the one her stepmother had bought for her, but she had made some alterations to make it fit better. The stepmother, shocked, asked if Ryan knew how to alter clothes and since when. Ryan replied that she learned it from books while she was alone in her room, though in reality, she had mastered this skill in her previous life. Sharon glared at Ryan in frustration, while the stepmother sighed and announced Ryan would be confined to her room for 3 days. Sharon was furious at this, loudly protesting that the punishment was too light given how much they had suffered at the banquet. She complained that everyone was questioning Ryan's supposed illness, causing her to break out in a cold sweat. The stepmother dismissed Sharon's complaints, saying it was pointless to dwell on the past, especially since Princess Cynthia was also present. However, she suspiciously asked Ryan if she had said anything unnecessary to the princess. Ryan feigned confusion, asking what she meant. Her stepmother impatiently told her to forget it and then left. Ryan obediently nodded and walked out. Sharon, still fuming, protested her mother's decision to let Ryan off so easily. However, her stepmother told her to be patient, as she planned to marry Ryan off to a wealthy family, soon to consolidate their social connections, which would ultimately help Sharon become crown princess. Sharon argued in frustration that Ryan didn't deserve such privileges, not even a meal. But her stepmother was firm, explaining that despite being a duchess for 6 years, she still lacked real power. Sharon then expressed her suspicion about Ryan's sudden change. Just a short while ago, she was so sickly she could barely speak properly. But now she was altering dresses and attending parties, and Sharon wondered what on earth Ryan was plotting. The stepmother dismissed Sharon's concerns, firmly believing Ryan was too foolish to be capable of any schemes. She declared smugly that Ryan had been strictly disciplined since childhood and would never dare to have any improper thoughts again. The stepmother reassured Sharon that she would make her the most powerful woman in the country, reminding her that she had never broken her word. Sharon felt relieved and happily called out to her mother. Meanwhile, Ryan was eavesdropping from another room, smirking as she heard everything. In a study, a man was working when his servant entered. The man inquired about the cotton textile business and the Crescent family's involvement. The servant reported that Ryan's stepmother, Marion Crescent, the temporary head of the family, was struggling to manage the business, lacking direction, and thus was not a significant concern. However, he mentioned an interesting rumor that the Crescent family's eldest daughter, Ryan, who was said to be mentally unsound, had fully recovered and even attended a recent royal palace event. The man found this news quite interesting. Meanwhile, in her room, Ryan penned a heartfelt letter to her older brother, Theodore. She apologized for not writing sooner, explaining that after he left for the academy 5 years ago, their stepmother had torn up his first letter. Despite her pleas, the stepmother forbade her from reading his letters, and she had been too afraid to write back. Ryan guessed Theodore stopped sending letters because he anticipated this situation. Now that she had finally found a way to exchange letters, she assured him that she could receive his correspondence without interference. She promised to reply promptly and expressed how much she missed him. The letter was signed, "Your sister, Adrianna." After sending the letter, Ryan strolled through the market. She noticed a magnificent building, the Magnolia Merchant Guild. She remembered this was another reason for her outing today. Now, its grand scale and reputation impressed her, and she mused that it was famous not only for selling every imaginable commodity, but also for other reasons. Stepping inside the guild, Ryan was stunned by the beauty and elegance of its interior. A lady approached her, politely asking if she was looking for anything specific. Inwardly, however, the lady was mocking Ryan, thinking her a country bumpkin who knew nothing. Noticing the woman's condescending attitude, Ryan was somewhat irritated, mentally chiding her for looking down on people. She maintained her composure and confidently said she was looking for the high elf's tier. A lady, holding a candle to light the way, led Ryan into a dark room. She then called for her master, who wore a mask. He invited Ryan to sit, mentioning it had been a while since he had a female client. When asked about her purpose, Ryan revealed she wanted to sell intelligence, specifically about a magic stone. She explained that the magic stone was an exceedingly rare and valuable item, containing the accumulated mana of thousands of magicians, its potential limitless. The masked master acknowledged the value of such information and asked what Ryan wanted in return. She replied that it depended on his offer, claiming she knew the current location of the magic stone and he could retrieve it himself. The master, intrigued, pressed Ryan on how she came to know such confidential information. Ryan panicked internally. Knowing she couldn't reveal, she learned it from her past life memories through a book called Ramona's Story. So, she vaguely said she stumbled upon it. The master, still skeptical, asked why she didn't retrieve the magic stone herself. Ryan masked her nervousness with a laugh, saying she was just an ordinary girl and couldn't possibly retrieve such a powerful magical item on her own. However, the master countered, how would an ordinary girl know about it in the first place? Ryan sighed with some frustration, feigned indifference, and threatened to sell her information to their competitor, the Marlin Merchant Guild. This guild had been growing rapidly in recent years, but something always felt off about it. Realizing she might have said too much, Ryan stopped, leaving the master to ponder. The masked master acknowledged Ryan's strong bargaining position, but clarified that he wasn't refusing the deal. Instead, he insisted that trading with his Magnolia Merchant Guild would be much better for her than going to the Marlin Merchant Guild. However, before proceeding, he demanded collateral. When Ryan asked what he meant, the master requested her rabbit doll as security. Ryan, shocked, instinctively clutched her doll tightly, disbelieving the request. The master then repeated Ryan's own words, emphasizing how she had stumbled upon the magic stone's location, but, as an ordinary girl, couldn't retrieve it herself. Since she wanted to exchange this information for money, he felt it necessary to provide some form of guarantee in case her information was false. The determined Ryan confidently assured him that the Philosopher's Stone was indeed where she said it was. She recalled that in the original story, Lemona's group found the Philosopher's Stone in the Shattered Mountain, and since Lemona's team was currently at the Academy, the stone should still be undiscovered in the mountain. Despite her insistence, the Master remained firm, stating that the rabbit doll was a necessary symbol of trust between them, much like a bank requires collateral. Ryan felt frustrated and confused, not understanding why he specifically wanted a rabbit doll. The Master offered 50 gold coins for Ryan's information about the Philosopher's Stone, and if the stone was found, she would receive an additional 20% of its selling price. However, Ryan pushed for 30%, and after some hesitation, the Master finally agreed to 25%, which Ryan accepted. He acknowledged her sharp bargaining skills. As part of the deal, the Master demanded her rabbit doll as collateral. Shocked, Ryan instinctively clutched the doll, questioning why he wanted it. She insisted it had no magic, nor did it hide any treasure. It was just an ordinary stuffed toy. However, the Master explained that its value lay in her attachment to it. Since she still carried it with her at her age, it must be special. Ryan hesitated, feeling a bit emotional. She remembered the doll was a gift from her older brother before her father remarried. Back then, she was a carefree, happy child, oblivious to the memories of her past life. The doll was the only link between her innocent past and her current self. However, she did not reveal her true feelings. She lied, saying she just carried it out of habit. The Master noticed her emotions and gently reassured her that he would take good care of it. He curiously asked if the doll had a name. Caught off guard, Ryan quickly made up a name on the spot. Goldie, she explained, saying the name came from a saying to live a long life with a golden spoon in your mouth. Although she had just invented the story, she smiled brightly, pretending it had always been the doll's name. The Master was amused that Ryan named the rabbit doll Goldie, saying it was a good name. Ryan smiled and extended her hand for a handshake, joking that her hand felt lonely. The Master, momentarily confused, apologized and shook her hand. She told him that their deal depended on him. After Ryan left, the Master played with the rabbit doll, thinking how bold she was to come to such a dangerous place alone. One of his subordinates suggested following her, but the Master refused, revealing that he already knew her true identity. She tried to disguise herself as a commoner, but her noble aura, the expensive clothes under her cloak, and most importantly, her black hair gave her away. In the capital, only members of the Crescent family had black hair, and the eldest daughter of that family had recently recovered from an illness and reappeared in social circles. The Master found her both mysterious and unpredictable, curious about her true motives. A few days later, at the royal palace, Ryan was warmly greeted by Princess Cynthia, who excitedly called her Mississippi Crescent. After the recent party, Cynthia had invited Ryan to the palace again. Ryan politely thanked her for the invitation, and Cynthia expressed her desire to talk with Ryan privately, just the two of them. She invited Ryan to sit down, preparing for their conversation. Princess Cynthia welcomed Ryan and served her a special tea from Ardentia, a powerful nation known for its magic. She explained that the tea would change into beautiful colors when hot water was poured. Ryan watched in amazement, calling it magical and expressing her curiosity about Olynis's magic. She then mentioned that her older brother was studying at Olympus Academy and asked if Grand Prince Claudian was also studying there. However, Cynthia's expression darkened, making Ryan immediately regret her words. She realized she had touched upon a sensitive topic. Prince Claudian and Princess Cynthia were half-siblings. Claudian was the son of the former empress, while Cynthia and the second Prince Leupold were children of the current empress. The struggle for succession created tension between them, and Cynthia probably didn't want to discuss her half-brother. Ryan decided not to mention Claudian in front of her again. Cynthia quickly changed the subject, saying that Leupold had not attended the academy but still received a formal education within the empire. Not wanting to offend her, Ryan nervously agreed, saying she had heard many rumors about the second prince being talented and kind-hearted. Cynthia enthusiastically agreed, describing Leupold as a considerate and good older brother who always looked out for her. Just as Ryan and Princess Cynthia were enjoying their conversation, the Emperor made an unexpected appearance. Cynthia was surprised, addressing him as Father Emperor, while Ryan looked on in shock at the ruler of the empire. Before her, the Emperor recognized her as the eldest daughter of the Crescent family and reminded her that they had met when she was young. Ryan recalled that he was the third-generation emperor of the Radiant Empire's imperial family, the very one who had made the Kellan Empire as strong as it is today. When he asked if she remembered that meeting, she respectfully confirmed that she did. The emperor then inquired about her older brother. Ryan happily replied that he was studying hard with his classmates. Hearing this, the emperor expressed his satisfaction, mentioning that he had been close to Ryan's father, Vero. Then, he unexpectedly invited Ryan to join them for dinner. Ryan was greatly shocked and hesitant, finding it hard to believe she could receive such an honor. Princess Cynthia was also excited by the suggestion and, after Ryan's brief shock, encouraged her to stay. Ryan smiled brightly and accepted the invitation. After all, how could she refuse the opportunity to dine with the royal family? The emperor then said there was still some time before dinner and proposed that Leo of Love and Heart, the second prince, show Ryan the royal gardens. Leo obeyed his father's command and prepared to accompany her. Ryan was surprised to see Leo standing there, wondering when he had arrived. She mused to herself that members of the royal family seemed to have a habit of appearing out of thin air. Leo approached her and politely asked if they could begin their walk. Ryan agreed with a radiant smile, addressing him with proper royal etiquette. They strolled through the royal gardens. Ryan asked if he had prior arrangements, not wanting to disturb him. Leo assured her it was no problem. He could postpone his official duties for a day. Ryan was captivated by the beauty of the roses in the garden. Leo explained that these roses were used to brew a special rose tea, a unique tea that could only be enjoyed within the palace due to insufficient production for public supply. Hearing this, Ryan playfully remarked that it was truly a royal rose tea in every sense. Leo, seeing her giggle, was pleased to witness her sincere joy. As they continued their conversation, Leo suddenly offered to prepare the royal rose tea for Ryan, saying she too could taste it. Ryan was taken aback and politely declined, stating that since the tea was in limited supply even for the royal family, she was not qualified to accept such a precious gift. Leo smiled meaningfully and then uttered a surprising statement. Considering you might soon become a member of the royal family, wouldn't you be qualified then? Ryan was now completely bewildered and asked him what he meant. Leo approached her and, without hesitation, asked if she had considered it. What do you think about getting engaged to me? Ryan was shocked and anxious, her mind in turmoil and engagement. She struggled to digest the sudden proposal, stammering, Then what about Sharon? She also said her mother would never agree to such an arrangement. Leo asked Ryan if the opinions of her stepmother and stepsister were truly that important to her. Ryan firmly replied, "Of course, they're my family." However, inwardly, she felt frustrated and panicked, realizing that if she bypassed Sharon and became directly engaged to Leo, her stepmother, Marianne, would never forgive her. She even worried that if things escalated, Marianne might try to poison her. Leo observed her reaction, finding it strange. He commented that, from what he had seen, she seemed to have been trying to get close to him. Ryan was caught off guard and asked him what he meant. Leo pointed out that despite her usual composed and proper demeanor, she had once chased after him breathlessly, even stopping his carriage, just to deliver a gift to Princess Cynthia. He noted that such behavior was very out of character for her. Unless you had other motives. Ryan, flustered, tried to brush it off, saying her actions were merely due to a lack of good upbringing. Leo, however, confidently stated he did not believe Ryan's excuse. He pointed out that at the royal banquet, her etiquette and composure had been more outstanding than anyone else's, her bearing and attire flawless. He questioned how such a well-mannered person could suddenly behave so rudely, implying her actions must have been intentional. Ryan panicked inwardly, realizing Leo was more perceptive than she had anticipated. Leo then directly accused her of purposefully approaching him and Princess Cynthia. Ryan, caught off guard, flinched but denied it. Leo proposed that if he and Ryan were to marry, he would fully support her brother in becoming the heir to the duchy. In return, the new Duke Crescent would have to support Leo in his bid for the throne. Ryan was somewhat tempted by the offer, but she knew that first Prince Claudian would ultimately win the struggle for the throne and Leo would fail. Moreover, her brother was on Claudian's side. Therefore, choosing Leo's faction would pit her against her own family. To avoid future trouble, she decided to remain neutral until her brother returned. She told Leupold that she had to discuss the matter with her mother and older brother, as her stepmother was currently managing the affairs of the duchy. Leupold accepted her response, but made a personal request. He asked if he could call her by her first name, Adrianna, just as Princess Cynthia did. Ryan, both shocked and flustered, still agreed. Leupold then smiled and said, "All right then, let's go to the dining hall, Adrianna." A few days later, Ryan rode in a carriage with Tail, an elite agent from the Magnolia Guild, heading to Blacktown. Tail seemed concerned about her decision, warning that Blacktown was a dangerous place, especially for a young lady like her. However, Ryan remained calm and reassured him that she was fully aware of the risks, which was precisely why she had requested an escort from the Magnolia Guild, instead of relying on the Crescent family soldiers. Tail couldn't help but wonder why she chose to avoid her family's protection, but he quickly reminded himself that the Magnolia Guild had a strict rule: never pry into clients' private affairs. He knew questioning her motives would be futile. As he pondered the situation, his master's orders came to mind. His master had specifically instructed him to escort Mississippi Crescent to Blacktown, confidently stating that with Tail by her side, there was nothing to worry about. In a past conversation, when his master assigned him to escort Ryan, Tail had been surprised, even a little offended, questioning why an elite agent like himself, who operated in the shadows for the guild, would be assigned to protect a young girl. However, his master had quickly challenged his confidence, asking if he couldn't even handle such a simple task. A flustered Tail tried to defend himself, but his master reminded him that their transaction with Mississippi Crescent was not yet complete, and it would be troublesome if anything happened to her. Returning to the present, Tail contemplated his orders, realizing he had no choice but to obey, as this was a task personally assigned to him by his master. He couldn't help but wonder what Ryan was planning, how she knew about the magic stone, and why they were heading to Blacktown. When they reached their destination, they both alighted from the carriage and began to walk. Tail advised Ryan to cover her head, warning her to be extremely careful now that they had entered Blacktown. Ryan pulled up her hood without hesitation, prepared for whatever lay ahead. As Ryan and Tail walked through Blacktown, they noticed everyone around them staring intently at them. Tail warned Ryan that getting involved in unnecessary altercations would be troublesome and advised her to avoid drawing attention. He pointed out that although it was still noon, the atmosphere was already unsettling, and it would only worsen after dark. He cautioned her that stabbings were common in this area and strongly advised her never to visit at night. Ryan felt a chill run down her spine as she recalled reading in the book from her previous life that the magic stone was located somewhere in Blacktown, though its exact location wasn't specified. She had hoped to find some clues by coming here, but now she realized that finding it would be no easy task. Curious about the lawlessness of Blacktown, Ryan questioned why His Majesty did nothing about it. Tail explained that Blacktown fell under the jurisdiction of the demon race, and due to an agreement between humans and the demon race, the royal family couldn't act rashly. Hearing this, Ryan thought of the demon race, a non-human race residing in the demon realm. The history between the demon race and humans had always been fraught with conflict and power struggles. She recalled that in the original story, humans and the demon race had fought a large-scale war over the magic stone, making its existence even more significant. Ramona and Theodore had defeated the leader of the demon race, ending the war in a human victory. In the latter half of this intense war story, the commander of the demon army, the crown prince of the demon realm, made his appearance. Unlike the male protagonist, his handsome appearance and solitary aura gave him a unique charm that deeply captivated readers. Ryan couldn't help but wish she could meet him, even just once. Meanwhile, two thugs had been watching Ryan and Tail closely, waiting for the right moment to strike. Suddenly, they lunged at the pair with knives, but both Ryan and Tail narrowly dodged the attack. Shocked, Ryan panicked, unsure of what was happening. Tail quickly shielded her and shouted, "Who's there?" A man and a woman emerged from the shadows. The girl clicked her tongue in annoyance, admitting they had been found out. The boy sighed, blaming her impatience and saying they should have observed a little longer. Tail recognized them immediately. They were Gino and Milia from the Marin Guild. Suspicious, he questioned why they had attacked. Milia, without hesitation, drew 2 daggers and lunged at Tail, smirking as she declared he should have known the reason. Tail, being more skilled, swiftly parried Milia's 2 daggers with his sword. However, Gino unexpectedly launched a knife attack at him, and Tail reacted immediately, precisely countering Gino's assault. Gino sneered, acknowledging Tail's strength and calling him Kenneth Relampago's dog. Hearing this, Ryan was shocked. Kenneth Relampago, the true master of the Magnolia Guild. Did this mean Tail was actually Lord Relampago's man? Gino continued his attack, and I wondered why Tail, who never left Kenneth Relampago's side, would suddenly take on an escort mission. Gino, questioned how important Ryan could possibly be. Tail, unfazed, replied that the guild was currently short-staffed, so he had to accompany her. Gino scoffed, calling it a joke. Meanwhile, Milia's sharp gaze turned to Ryan. She accused Ryan of being the one who sold information about the magic stone to the Magnolia Guild. Ryan's heart pounded as panic set in. How did they know? Tail quickly changed the subject, feigning ignorance about the magic stone. Meanwhile, Ryan was in turmoil, wondering how the Marin Guild had discovered she sold information about the magic stone to the Magnolia Guild. Gino smirked, saying they had come prepared. Milia then ordered Gino to cover her as she attempted to grab Ryan. However, Tail swiftly intercepted her, vowing he would never let them take Ryan. He whispered to Ryan to run, that he would hold them off. Terrified, Ryan bolted. Seeing this, Milia drew 3 daggers and threw them at her with deadly precision. Ryan's eyes widened in terror as she watched the daggers fly towards her. Just then, a sorcerer appeared and commanded the daggers to stop. The daggers froze in midair, mere inches from Ryan's throat. Milia was stunned, unable to comprehend how this was possible. Ryan stared at the hovering daggers, realizing with astonishment that a sorcerer had intervened. The sorcerer sternly warned that no further disturbances would be tolerated. A tense Milia questioned why he was interfering. She lunged at him without hesitation, yelling for him to get out of the way if he didn't want to get hurt. The sorcerer quickly cast a spell, immobilizing Milia, leaving her shocked and unable to move. She realized he was using binding magic. Frustrated, she cursed at him, but before she could act, Gino frantically warned her not to move. Gino revealed that the sorcerer was none other than Borugard, the crown prince of the demon realm and the ruler of Blacktown. Ryan was dumbfounded upon hearing this. She hadn't expected to meet him so soon. Borugard was pleased they recognized him, stating it would make things easier. He declared Blacktown his territory and questioned why they thought they could cause trouble on his turf. A nervous Gino tried to brush it off, claiming it was just a minor squabble. However, Borugard had overheard their conversation about the magic stone, pointing out there seemed to be some misunderstanding. He then clarified that Gino and Milia had initiated the attack. Milia tried to reveal crucial information about Ryan, but before she could speak, Gino quickly covered her mouth, letting out a nervous yelp. To avoid trouble, he hastily agreed they had made a mistake. However, Milia struggled, insisting their information was accurate and that they had verified it themselves. Before she could say more, Gino silenced her again. Borugard then turned his attention to Ryan, addressing her directly. She responded nervously and hesitantly. He immediately saw through her disguise and questioned why someone from a noble family would be in such a dangerous place. Ryan, flustered and unsure how to respond, felt a wave of panic. Realizing that lying to him wouldn't work, Borugard sighed, deciding not to waste any more time. Without further ado, he announced that he was officially banishing all 4 of them, Ryan, Tail, Gino, and Milia, from Blacktown. After the tense encounter in Blacktown, Ryan and Tail returned by carriage. Ryan replayed the events in her mind, wondering what would have happened if Borugard hadn't stopped those daggers with his magic in time. Concerned, she asked Tail if he was injured. Tail reassured her he was fine, but apologized for not being able to protect her completely, admitting he hadn't expected the Marin Guild to attack. He speculated on how they might have learned about the magic stone and revealed he had been secretly reporting its existence to the royal family. He suspected a spy within the palace had leaked the information. Given their recent encounter, Tail deemed it too dangerous to continue investigating in Blacktown, considering it an ominous sign. However, Ryan pointed out that Borugard had helped them, suggesting he didn't seem like a bad person. Tail remained vigilant, reminding her that demons were inherently selfish and cruel. Tail denied that Borugard had helped them, explaining that he had intervened merely to maintain order in his own territory. He warned Ryan against befriending demons, emphasizing that they were not human and possessed an insatiable greed for magic stones. If word got out that she was connected to the magic stone, it would be impossible to remain neutral. Ryan recalled Ramona, the original novel that laid the foundation for this world. She remembered that in the latter half of the story, a cavalry army attacked the royal palace in pursuit of the magic stone. This battle was eventually stopped by the novel's main characters, Ramona, Theodore, her brother Claudian, and the First Prince. She pondered the importance of the magic stone and the legendary holy sword possessed by Orabani. The war between demons and humans was triggered by the existence of two powerful swords. Although the battle ended with the decisive victory of the sword god, the demon army suffered disgrace. The sole survivor of the demon race was the crown prince of the demon realm, who ultimately chose to end his own life. Ryan contemplated Borugard's character, recalling that despite his brief appearance in the original story, his tragic fate had left a deep impression. She reasoned that if he were truly so cruel, he would have eliminated all of them, not just banished them. This led her to believe he wasn't as bad as others claimed. She imagined a scenario where she could talk to him, thinking they might have a lot in common. In her thoughts, she pictured herself reaching out to him and urging him to join her in changing the future so they could both live long lives, avoiding his original tragic destiny. After some time, Ryan received a letter, expressing pleasure at her activities in the academy and a desire to meet some of her colleagues. In her reply, Ryan mentioned she had been invited to a royal ladies' tea party hosted by Princess Cynthia and had expanded her social circle by attending small gatherings, as well as corresponding through letters. However, she also admitted that as time went on, she faced increasing responsibilities, including the need to meet members of the royal family in person. Realizing the importance of mastering daily etiquette, she considered hiring a private tutor to guide her. Ryan stared skeptically at a money pouch. Realizing she didn't have enough money to hire a tutor, she sighed, knowing her stepmother wouldn't approve of a female tutor. She wondered if the profits from the magic stone sale had arrived and decided to retrieve her rabbit doll. She then went to the market to meet the master, who had her rabbit doll. He greeted her, joking that he had tried to make it cuter, but failed. Ryan noticed he wasn't wearing a mask and asked if it was okay for him to show his face. He replied that the mask was just a concept, a way of pretending not to know someone. He then hugged the rabbit doll and cryptically hinted at knowing her full name. Ryan became suspicious and asked if he knew who she was, but he denied it. She felt it was unfair since she didn't even know his identity. He introduced himself as Ken Idlian, which stunned Ryan, as it matched the alias she used when opening her account. After confirming the deposit, she asked for her rabbit back. Instead, he asked if she was hungry and offered to treat her to a meal. Ryan hesitated, wondering what his true intentions were, but decided to hear him out as he seemed to know too much about her. Ryan and the master sat in a restaurant, and he asked her if she could eat seafood. As she looked at the menu, she hesitated, noticing that everything was incredibly expensive. She doubted if she could really eat at such a luxurious place, especially since she had no money and had to make a living by selling information. The master chuckled and reassured her that thanks to her valuable information, his firm had profited greatly, and it was only natural to treat her well. Encouraged, Ryan decided to order steamed lobster with 8-flavor chili sauce, joking that it was no fun to order something ordinary. The master agreed and added orders of olive oil roasted corn, salmon steak with lemon sauce, and a dessert. Ryan commented in surprise that he ate a lot, finding it unexpected. He simply replied, "Just in case," leaving her puzzled. When the food arrived, Ryan marveled at how delicious it looked, and the master encouraged her to eat. As Ryan tasted the food, she suddenly felt unwell and screamed, "It's spicy." Struggling with the unbearable burning sensation, she realized it was much spicier than expected. The master asked if she was okay, and casually mentioned that the dish was popular among those who liked spicy food. Shocked, Ryan accused him of not stopping her, even though he knew how spicy it would be. He admitted he had tasted it once before. Frustrated, she told him he should have been more proactive in warning her. As an apology, the master offered her his untouched dish, explaining that he had ordered extra food because he was hungry but couldn't finish it. Ryan looked at the plate, realizing he had likely prepared for this situation in advance. She wasn't sure if he was being considerate or cunning. However, when she tasted the new dish, she liked it very much. Ryan enjoyed her meal. She complimented the restaurant's food, saying it melted in her mouth. Then she raised the issue of fairness in their transaction, pointing out that he knew her identity while she didn't know his. She questioned whether they could build a good relationship. Under such circumstances, the master chuckled, suggesting she already knew who he was, and said she was smart enough to guess from the clues he had given. He let her piece the clues together herself. After finishing their meal, Ryan changed the subject, asking if she could get a recommendation for an etiquette tutor through the Magnolia Guild. When the master inquired further, she firmly told him not to ask, and revealed that she had figured out his identity, Lord Kenneth Relampago. Leah informed Ryan that she had received many invitations, especially after visiting the Crown Princess. Ryan, realizing this sudden attention, decided to take Leah shopping as a small token of appreciation for her help. Leah was shocked and moved by Ryan's gesture, becoming emotional. Ryan, on the other hand, had her own calculations. She wanted to gain favor and solidify her position before her stepmother, Marion, could interfere. They arrived at a boutique, and Leah was captivated by the variety of beautiful dresses. Ryan encouraged her to take her time choosing, assuring her that the dresses were not only new in style, but also affordable and of good quality. Leah looked around the shop excitedly, surprised by the affordable prices compared to the capital. She asked Ryan how she found the store. Ryan replied that someone had recommended it to her. The scene shifts back to the restaurant, where Ryan recalled the moment earlier when she learned the master's true identity. She realized that only Lord Kenneth Relampago could have ordered Tail to accompany her to Blacktown. She confronted the master, pointing out that by introducing himself as Ken, he never really intended to hide his identity from her. The master smiled, admitting he had recognized her from their first meeting. Ryan was surprised, realizing her disguise must have been poor. However, the master assured her that her identity would remain strictly confidential. As a gesture of goodwill, he gave her some advice. Next time she disguised herself, she should choose a plain dress instead of a silk one. He also recommended a shop in Duanshan run by the Magnolia Guild, where textiles were even cheaper than in the capital, thanks to their expanding business network. Ryan observed the shop, noticing its popularity, probably due to its affordable prices and good quality. She saw that even Leah was impressed. Thinking of Kenneth Relampago, Ryan realized he had shared valuable information with her. Textile imports were controlled by the Crescent family, currently managed by her stepmother, Marion. However, Marion had significantly raised textile prices, making clothes unaffordable for ordinary people. Kenneth's guild, aware of this problem, had opened a new supply route to provide cheaper clothing. Ryan sighed, realizing that if this situation continued, her family's business might face bankruptcy. She knew she had to act before it was too late. Suddenly, a scream interrupted her thoughts. She turned in shock to see monsters appearing out of nowhere, causing panic among the crowd. As everyone scrambled to escape, Leah grabbed Ryan's hand, urging her to run. But in the chaos, Ryan tripped and got separated from Leah, who was pushed ahead by the crowd. Leah anxiously called out to Ryan, but before she could reach her, a monster dangerously approached Ryan. She watched the creature in terror, realizing she was in grave danger. Just as the monster was about to attack Ryan, Borugard suddenly appeared and slew it, saving her life. Ryan looked at him in shock. Borugard looked at her with concern, asking if she was all right. Still in astonishment, Ryan could barely respond. Borugard noticed her injured leg. Borugard gently took her hand and then swept her into his arms. He carried her to a safe place and carefully set her down. Borugard told her it should be safe here and instructed her not to move until all the monsters were cleared. Without waiting for her reply, he quickly left to continue fighting. Ryan called out for him to wait, but he was already gone. After eliminating all the monsters, Borugard's troop confirmed there were no casualties. A beautiful woman flirted with Borugard, suggesting they go back, but he refused, saying he had unfinished business. He took Tail and approached Ryan. Borugard used magic to heal Ryan's injured ankle. Tail told her to try moving it, and to her surprise, she felt no pain and excitedly realized her ankle was healed. Tail warned her that it wasn't fully recovered and advised her to rest. Ryan commented in amazement that it was incredible for a demon like Tail to use divine power. Tail coldly told her she should thank Crown Prince Borugard, as he wouldn't have treated a human if not for His Highness's order. Ryan was impressed. She approached Borugard and thanked him. He dismissed it as nothing and was about to leave, but Ryan quickly grabbed his arm. Having stopped him, she hesitantly asked why monsters had suddenly appeared in the area. and whether it was related to the magic stone. She wondered if, because she herself had retrieved the magic stone instead of the original party in the story, it had caused a butterfly effect in this world. Borugard firmly denied any connection. When Ryan asked if he was sure, he replied that he had no reason to lie to her. He then told her that her companion was likely taking shelter nearby, and suggested she find her before leaving. Tail, watching the exchange, cryptically asked Ryan if there wasn't something else she should ask Borugard. Ryan was confused, but Tail hinted before walking away, "Why did he save you?" As she replayed the conversation, Ryan blushed, realizing she had never questioned Borugard's true motives. Ryan reflected on the recent events, questioning why demons, who were usually selfish, would exterminate monsters to save humans. In the original story, demons and monsters entered the human world together, so their actions seemed unusual. She warned herself not to trust demons, believing that getting close to them would only bring misfortune. Meanwhile, in another scene, Tail finished treating Borugard's wounds. Borugard advised him to rest, knowing that as someone with celestial blood, Tail wouldn't get much rest once he returned to the demon realm. Tail acknowledged this, but confessed he couldn't sleep earlier due to the excitement of the battle, realizing how much his demonic blood affected him. Tail then mentioned Ryan, recalling how surprised she was when he used divine magic. He recognized her as the girl Borugard had saved in the Black Town and pointed out that Borugard had now saved the same person twice. Tail questioned Borugard about Ryan, suggesting her black hair reminded him of that person. Borugard dismissed the idea and left, but Tail believed Borugard was still thinking about this mysterious person. The narration then explained that the world was divided into 3 realms: heaven, the celestial realm; the human realm; and hell, the demon realm. In the human realm, there were hidden entrances to both the celestial and demon realms, attracting adventurers seeking treasure. The scene shifted to Ryan and her new tutor, Mrs. Padilla, who was recommended by the Magnolia Guild. During their lesson, Mrs. Padilla mentioned a legend about a 3-headed dog guarding the entrance to hell, which Ryan correctly identified as Cerberus. Mrs. Padilla praised Ryan as a fast learner and concluded the lesson, telling her they would cover court etiquette next week. Before leaving, Ryan thought Mrs. Padilla was a trustworthy teacher who knew how to keep secrets. As Ryan headed home, she mused about Kenneth's thoughtfulness and how he had introduced her to a reliable person. However, she noted that he sometimes excelled a little too much in what he did. Upon arriving home, she saw her stepmother furiously yelling about imported cotton. A nervous subordinate informed her that the Magnolia Guild, led by Count Kenneth Relampago, was the culprit. The enraged stepmother vowed to ask the emperor to put Kenneth in his place during her next visit to the palace. Ryan, observing from outside, sighed, realizing the emperor would likely side with the Magnolia Guild as it benefited him. She wondered if Kenneth truly intended to ruin her family. As she headed to her room, Sharon stopped her on the stairs, asking where she had been. Ryan vaguely replied that she had gone for a walk. Sharon warned her against loitering unnecessarily and then reminded her about the palace invitation, strongly advising her not to attend. However, Ryan revealed that she had also received an invitation this time. Sharon arrogantly scoffed at Ryan, mocking her and warning her not to attend the palace event, claiming she would embarrass herself. Frustrated by Sharon's behavior, Ryan returned to her room angrily, clenching her fists with determination. She told herself to be patient and wait for the right moment. Later, Ryan was sitting in the garden with her rabbit doll. Ryan enjoyed a moment of peace as Marion and Sharon were too busy preparing for their palace trip to bother her. She regretted not being able to go to the palace to see Princess Cynthia and blamed Sharon's selfishness for it. Suddenly, Beauregard appeared holding a yellow flower, startling Ryan. Seeing him, she grew anxious, wondering why he was there. When Beauregard asked why she was there, she nervously replied that she was out for a walk. They continued their conversation, with Ryan walking alongside Beauregard. She expressed her surprise at meeting him in such a place. Beauregard asked about her ankle, and Ryan happily confirmed it had fully recovered. Beauregard showed a faint smile. This surprised Ryan, who wondered if he had just smiled. She asked him why he had come all the way from Blacktown. He replied that he came to visit a grave. When they reached the cemetery, Ryan noticed there was no name on the tombstone. Beauregard placed the yellow flower on the grave, and when Ryan asked whose grave it was, he became emotional. Beauregard vaguely replied that it was the grave of someone who made foolish choices, a lost and unknown person, a pitiful fool. Seeing his sorrow, Ryan quickly picked a bouquet of white, fleabane daisies and placed them on the grave with a prayer. Beauregard was surprised by the flowers and recognized them. Ryan explained that these flowers bloomed frequently in this area and were her favorite because they had a special meaning in flower language. Before she could finish, Beauregard interrupted, saying he already knew. Beauregard saw in Ryan a reflection of the girl he had lost and deeply missed. He whispered softly that she, too, cared too much, just like that child. He then recalled his little sister asking him if he knew that fleabane symbolized reconciliation in flower language. Later, they sat together, and Ryan commented cheerfully on the beautiful scenery, saying that the person buried here was lucky to see it every day. However, Beauregard revealed a painful truth. There was nothing beneath that tombstone. Ryan, shocked, asked him what he meant. Beauregard, filled with sorrow, recounted the tragic fate of his sister, whose foolish actions had cost her life, and he had never been able to find her remains. Beauregard recalled how his little sister had always loved this place, wishing she could rest here. Ryan comforted him, saying he had chosen a beautiful spot and believed his sister would be pleased. However, Beauregard expressed guilt and doubt, hoping she wouldn't blame him. He then told Ryan to forget everything he had said and warned her not to associate with demons. If they met again, he insisted she pretend not to know him. As Beauregard prepared to leave, Ryan refused to ignore him. She reminded him that if he truly wanted nothing to do with humans, he wouldn't have saved her multiple times without asking for anything in return. She declared that whether he was a demon or not, she would speak to him in the future because he had helped her, and his actions could not simply be erased. Beauregard was surprised by her words and hesitated. Then Ryan suddenly handed him a sandwich. She shyly explained that people have negative thoughts when they are hungry, telling him to eat it before leaving, and then quickly departed. After Ryan left, Beauregard held the sandwich, remembering his little sister's words about not giving up, her belief that peaceful coexistence between humans and demons might be possible. However, Beauregard dismissed it as mere fantasy, threw the sandwich away, and walked off. A few days later, Ryan was bored and frustrated in her room, as everyone was preparing for the palace trip while she was left behind. She tossed and turned in bed, complaining about having nothing to do. Her maid, Leah, knocked on the door and chided her for still being in bed. Ryan, unconcerned, said she had nothing to do, because Mary and Sharon were busy. Leah hesitated, but then heard a noise downstairs. Ryan was wondering what the noise was when Leah offered to check, but as soon as Leah opened the door, Prince Leupold suddenly walked in. Marian and Sharon were stunned when Prince Leupold entered, unable to believe their eyes. They tried to stop him, but Leupold calmly stated that he had heard Ryan was unwell and had come personally to escort her. Ryan was startled by his appearance, anxiously wondering why he was there. Later, in the carriage on the way to the palace, Ryan hesitantly admitted that it was truly unexpected for the second prince to personally visit her home. Leupold explained that he was worried she had suddenly fallen ill and wanted to check on her. He reassured her that doctors were on call at the palace, and he would offer support if she felt unwell. Ryan, overwhelmed, laughed nervously, saying that just hearing his words had already dispelled her feigned discomfort. Leupold personally coming to escort her filled Ryan with both pride and emotion. She was grateful for the opportunity to visit the imperial palace, but also anxious about the potential consequences. Meanwhile, her stepmother and Sharon were furious, questioning how she dared to ride in the same carriage as the prince. As the carriage progressed, Leupold brought up their previous conversation, asking if she had considered it. Ryan was startled, noticing his impatience. Leupold responded that her charm had changed his feelings, which made her even more confused about the future. Ryan chose her words carefully, knowing Leupold's interest in her was purely political. She asked if she could wait until after her social debut, hoping her older brother would have returned by then to help her navigate the situation. Leupold agreed to her request. Later, at the imperial palace banquet, Ryan, her stepmother, and Sharon dined with the emperor and his family. Throughout the meal, Leupold's gaze remained fixed on Ryan, making her feel very uncomfortable. After the banquet, Ryan walked in the garden, relieved but still anxious. She felt the dinner had been exceptionally tense, especially with Leupold staring at her the entire time, which enraged Sharon. Ryan worried about the punishment she would face upon returning home and suddenly realized she might be lost in the palace garden. In the palace garden, Borugard and Kill walked side by side, discussing the emperor's stance on the treaty between the empire in the demon world. Kill was frustrated, saying the Emperor had no intention of maintaining peace. He reminded Borugard that despite his secret request for an audience, the Emperor had refused to meet him formally, citing a prior dinner engagement. However, Borugard remained calm, acknowledging that he had arrived uninvited, leaving the Emperor little choice. Kill then pointed out that although the Emperor denied involvement, he was certain that the one who tampered with the magic catalyst was none other than the Emperor himself. Before he could finish, the two suddenly heard a noise from the nearby bushes. Alerted, Kill immediately demanded to know who was there. To their surprise, Ryan stumbled out from the bushes, looking relieved. Borugard was visibly startled to see her, exclaiming in disbelief, "Ryan." Ryan was equally surprised and asked Borugard why he was at the palace. Kill recognized her as the girl Borugard had saved at Broken Mountain and immediately tensed up. He knew no one was supposed to know they were in the palace, and since the situation was dire, he looked at Ryan and muttered that she was unlucky to have run into them here. Kill drew his sword, saying that since Ryan had seen them, she could not be allowed to leave. Ryan was terrified at the sight of the weapon. Before Kill could act, Borugard firmly ordered him to stop. However, Kill insisted that since Ryan had discovered them, she could not be allowed to live. Terrified, Ryan quickly spoke up, revealing her identity as the daughter of the Duke of Crescenia. She warned them that if they killed her, her family and the imperial family would spare no effort in hunting down the culprits. She argued that they wouldn't want to escalate matters to that extent. She proposed that both sides pretend this encounter never happened. She hadn't seen them, and they hadn't seen her. Kill remained skeptical, accusing Ryan of trying to flee, and questioned how they could be sure she wouldn't report them to the guards after leaving. Ryan solemnly swore that she would never tell anyone about encountering them. Borugard decided to trust her and addressed her by her title, Mississippi Crescent. Ryan smiled and asked him to call her Adrianna, or Ryan. As Borugard prepared to leave, he instructed Kill to follow. However, Kill hesitated, questioning Borugard's decision and doubting whether they should trust a human. Borugard recalled his past, admitting that he hadn't trusted his sister, which ultimately led to losing her. Determined not to repeat the same mistake, he chose to trust Ryan this time. After returning to the manor, Aaron angrily slapped Ryan and yelled at her, accusing her of shameless behavior and getting too close to the prince. Her stepmother joined in, scolding Ryan for meddling in affairs she couldn't understand and claiming she didn't even realize how disgraceful her actions were. Ryan clenched her teeth, knowing that resisting would only make things worse. If she fought back, she worried they might poison her. As punishment, her stepmother Marion ordered Ryan to clean the entire mansion by herself the next day. Sharon maliciously suggested extending the punishment beyond a day, but Marion refused, saying that if Ryan were left with noticeable scars or worse, it could complicate their own lives. Ryan resolved to endure their abuse, reminding herself that the right time to act had not yet come. The next morning, Ryan donned a maid's uniform and, holding a broom, steadfastly prepared to begin her cleaning duties. Liao worriedly offered to help, but Ryan refused, knowing Liao could be fired if they were caught. She insisted on doing it alone and began cleaning the entire estate. After some time, she finally completed the task, admiring the fruits of her labor, and noted that everything looked spotless. Recalling her past, Ryan remembered that the original Miss Crescenia was terrible at cleaning, but since she had grown up as a butler in her previous life, she had mastered various skills like cooking, cleaning, and sewing. She felt proud, marveling at her abilities, jokingly calling herself too perfect at everything. Sharon sneered at Ryan, mocking her maid attire and sarcastically remarking that perhaps cleaning was her true calling. Ryan, unfazed, thanked Sharon for the compliment. Annoyed by Ryan's reaction, Sharon realized that unlike the old Ryan who would have locked herself in her room to sulk, the current Ryan seemed indifferent, determined to provoke her. Sharon kicked over a bucket of water, dirtying the freshly cleaned floor, and mockingly told Ryan to clean it again, then walked away laughing. Ryan, though annoyed, remained resolute. Ryan began to clean the mess again, cursing Sharon under her breath. Just then, another maid quietly approached to help. Ryan worriedly warned her that she could get into trouble if they were discovered. The maid, feeling sorry for Ryan, asked her to keep it a secret from the mistress and expressed her sympathy. Ryan recalled the past when everyone ignored her and didn't care if her stepmother Marion scolded her. But now she sensed a subtle change in the mansion's atmosphere. Later that evening, after finishing all her work, Ryan grew increasingly frustrated with her stepmother Marion and Sharon, angered by their stinginess in not even giving her food. It also annoyed her that they ruined everything she had cleaned. She had just cleaned. Just then, her half-brother Rudolph ran towards her in the dark with a piece of bread, a concerned look on his face. Ryan warned him it was dangerous to be out so late. Rudolph ignored her concern and offered her the bread. Moved by his kindness, Ryan accepted the bread, realizing that despite everything, she wasn't completely alone in this house. Her little brother was on her side. Later, Ryan knocked on her room door, and just as she was about to speak, the maids inside excitedly called her in. She was surprised to see a table laden with food and asked if they were having a party. The maids happily bid her sit, explaining that since they had the day off, they had cooked extra food and wanted to share it with her. They urged her to eat before the food got cold. Ryan felt warm and happy. Ryan enjoyed the moment with them. She realized that previously she had never paid much attention to the people around her. But now that she was starting to change, the attitudes of those around her were changing too. With renewed hope, she believed things would gradually get better from now on. At a ladies' gathering, Ryan and Princess Cynthia joined a lively conversation. Miss Sharon mentioned the upcoming founding ball and said that Count Relampago would be attending, making his first public appearance. The other girls excitedly discussed him, mentioning his immense wealth and rumored handsome looks. When asked for her opinion, Ryan flinched, remembering her master, Count Ken. She absently blurted out that he liked stuffed rabbit toys. The girls were all bewildered, and Ryan quickly tried to cover up her slip of the tongue. An aunt reassuringly comforted her, thinking Ryan was just nervous about the ball. Ryan smiled awkwardly and agreed, try to brush it off. During the gathering, Miss Sharon asked Princess Cynthia what special event was planned for the day after the founding ball. Cynthia happily revealed that this year's event would be a masquerade ball. Ryan was excited. She admired the various masks, and Cynthia offered to lend her one, ensuring she could attend the party. Then Cynthia came up with an interesting idea, to swap their hair and eye colors using magic dye. She suggested she become black-haired with pink eyes, while Ryan would become silver-haired with golden eyes. The effect would last for a day and then revert to normal. Ryan excitedly agreed to the plan, thrilled about it. Later, on the day of the founding celebration, grand festivities began and everyone enjoyed the joyous occasion. At the founding ball, Ryan recalled that the first day was supposed to be an ordinary ball. As she was sipping champagne, Miss Sharon approached her excitedly, urging her to hurry. Sharon told Ryan that Count Relampago had just arrived at the ballroom, and they had to go see him. Ryan was hesitant, as she had met him before, but Sharon insisted, emphasizing how rare it was for him to make a public appearance. Ryan reluctantly followed Sharon and soon found herself face to face with the Count. Ken Relampago. She grew nervous as Ken kept staring at her, hoping he wouldn't recognize that they knew each other. She curtsied and greeted him politely. However, to her shock, Ken addressed her directly. It's been a while, Mississippi Crescent. This sent Ryan into an internal panic. Miss Sharon, upon realizing that Ryan knew Count Relampago, was greatly shocked and immediately questioned her about it. Ryan, feeling embarrassed, tried to avoid everyone's gaze, but Ken approached her, expressing his concern, mentioning he had been worried because she hadn't visited him again. In a panic, Ryan quickly stepped on Ken's foot with her high heel, trying to silence him. She laughed nervously, attempting to brush off his words, pretending not to understand what he meant. She then whispered to Ken, reminding him that a customer's identity should be kept confidential. Ken playfully replied that he was merely greeting his dear customer. Noticing many eyes on them, Ryan warned him to be careful with his words. Ken smirked, implying there was a way for her to silence him, which made Ryan nervous and uneasy. Ken extended his hand to Ryan, inviting her to dance. As they danced together, all eyes in the ballroom turned towards them. Ryan, noticing the crowd's gaze, remarked that everyone was staring at them. Ken, in turn, complimented her beauty, but Ryan insisted that people were more curious about him, as he was a mysterious figure in high society. Suddenly, Ken pulled Ryan closer, causing her to freeze in surprise. He remarked that she didn't seem curious about him at all, teasing her. Ryan, blushing and flustered, demanded he let go, but they continued to dance. Among the onlookers was Prince Leupold too, who was watching them closely. Seeing Ryan and Ken together, he felt a pang of jealousy. wondering when the two had become so close. After the dance ended, Ryan finally escaped to the balcony, relieved that she had managed to get away. Ryan felt frustrated, thinking how unbearable the gazes of attention after the ball were, finding it a bit terrifying. Just then, Ken approached her with a drink, greeting her. She was somewhat annoyed. Ryan responded sarcastically, blaming someone for making her the center of attention at the party. She explained that she had to leave because she could feel everyone staring at her. Ken chuckled, mentioning he had visited the dress shop he recommended to her, where he learned she had been attacked by magical beasts, and expressed his relief that she was safe. Ryan, shocked, asked how he knew, as it was never reported in the newspapers. Ken reminded her that she seemed to have forgotten who he was, the master of the Magnolia Merchant Guild. Realizing this, Ryan acknowledged him as the Empire's foremost intelligence official. Ken revealed that despite his intelligence network, he hadn't anticipated the magical beast attack at Broken Mountain. He explained that such magical beast stampedes are usually triggered by something, most likely magic stones. Ryan hesitated, recalling someone telling her that the magical beast didn't appear because of magic stones. Curious, Ken asked who said that. Ryan mentioned the person who saved her, pointing out that the person seemed to know a lot about magical beasts. Ken immediately suspected that person might be from the demon tribe. Ryan flinched, and he explained that few people knew it was actually the demon tribe who cleared the magical beast for Broken Mountain. However, there were also rumors that the demon tribe could control magical beasts and had orchestrated the attack on the village. Although he found it absurd, Ken suggested that someone might be intentionally spreading these rumors for their own benefit. Ken questioned who would benefit most if relations between humans and the demon tribe deteriorated. This led Ryan to ponder if someone was deliberately instigating conflict for their own gain. Ken announced his intention to investigate further, feeling responsible since Ryan was attacked after visiting the shop he recommended. Ryan was surprised by his concern, as she hadn't expected him to care that much. Ken replied that trust is the most valuable currency, emphasizing his business-centric approach. Ryan noted how calculating he was, thinking he always found a way to profit, regardless of the situation. Ever the opportunist, Ken deftly changed the subject, playfully asking Ryan to treat him to a meal another day. Ken jokingly insisted Ryan owed him a meal, teasing her for accepting food from a common merchant. Annoyed by his calculating nature, Ryan hesitated, but before she could refuse, Ken took it upon himself to assume she had agreed. He then casually set a meeting for the next afternoon at the festival square before taking his leave, leaving Ryan flustered. She wondered if the situation was somewhat like a date. However, she quickly dismissed the thought. Back inside the banquet hall, Prince Leupold II watched Ken with a sharp, unreadable gaze. Ken, as composed as ever, smiled, bowed politely, and then approached the prince. Leupold, clearly annoyed, spoke metaphorically about a bothersome insect infesting the rose he had been tending to, alluding to Ken's growing closeness with Ryan. Ken, understanding the implication, smirked and played along, suggesting Leupold use a strong insecticide to eliminate these pests. The tension between them was palpable as Leupold coldly agreed, making it clear he viewed Ken as a rival. Ryan and Ken strolled through the market together. Ryan bought 2 sausages from a vendor and offered one to Ken. When she asked if such a small snack was enough to repay the expensive seafood meal he had treated her to last time, Ken nonchalantly insisted the sausage made them even. Ryan, dissatisfied with his playful attitude, grumbled but followed along. Ken then suggested they continue exploring the market together as her way of repaying him for the dinner. They wandered through the bustling marketplace, enjoying the atmosphere. After a while, Ken handed Ryan a drink, saying it was a small treat from him. However, Ryan smirked and said, "Nothing is more expensive than something given for free," hinting at Ken's calculating nature. Ken told Ryan that he had already received something precious, her time. He expressed his gratitude, saying the time spent with her was priceless and could not be repaid or measured in money. Hearing this, Ryan blushed to the tips of her ears, her face turning bright red. She tried to compose herself and agreed that time was indeed more valuable than money. Then she hesitantly asked if Ken would be attending the masquerade ball that night. Ken replied that he had another engagement. This surprised Ryan. She joked that since Ken was in disguise every day, he wouldn't be missing much. Ken cleared his throat, somewhat embarrassed, and insisted his disguises were merely for the merchant guild's business. Ryan, amused by his reaction, giggled. Ryan said this was the first time she had truly enjoyed a festival and thanked Ken for inviting her. She revealed she had always been confined at home and never thought she would experience such freedom. Ken knew that the Crescent family was currently being temporarily managed by Duchess Marion. Ryan explained that her older brother was at boarding school. Her younger brother, Rudolph, was still very young, and she, as a minor, was still under a guardian's jurisdiction. She felt powerless, knowing that if the Magnolia Merchant Guild took over the cotton business, her family's business would collapse, and she could do nothing to stop it. Ken was about to respond, but Ryan smiled and told him not to worry. Instead of worrying about a potential business rival, she was more concerned about someone in her own household, someone who wouldn't hesitate to poison her tea. Ken offered to help Ryan, but she declined, joking that his fee might be too expensive, and she could only afford snacks at the moment. Ken then suggested they continue exploring the market, admitting the wares might not be as refined as what a duke's daughter was accustomed to. Ryan excitedly agreed. As they wandered, Ryan stopped at a jewelry stall, captivated by a bracelet with exquisite magic imbued in it. She admired its soft glow, recognizing the enchantment on it. Before she could say much more, Ken bought it without hesitation. Ryan was surprised and insisted he didn't have to buy it for her, but Ken gently placed the bracelet on her wrist. He told her it was his way of apologizing for his earlier words, adding that it suited her very well. Ryan blushed and quickly made an excuse about needing to get to the masquerade ball, then hurried away. Ken watched her leave and sighed, saying he now regretted getting involved in the clothing business. Just then, Tyr arrived and informed Ken that what he had requested had been delivered to Crescent Street. After Ken confirmed, he was caught off guard when Tyr asked if he had feelings for Ryan. Ken didn't answer directly, instead musing that wildflowers that had weathered storms seemed far more beautiful than delicate flowers sheltered in a greenhouse. Later that night, at the grand masquerade ball in the Imperial Palace, Ryan arrived in disguise, wearing a mask. She had changed her hair and eye color, dressing up as Princess Cynthia. As soon as she entered, all eyes turned to her in awe, watching Ryan enter the masquerade. Murmurs spread among the guests, many speculating if she was Princess Cynthia due to her silver hair and golden eyes, though some noted slight differences. Hearing this, Ryan was quite pleased, realizing the magic dye had worked perfectly. Just then, the real Cynthia approached her, complimenting her hair. Ryan noticed Cynthia had also changed her hair and eye color, mimicking Ryan's own appearance. Ryan mused, then complimented Cynthia's dark hair, saying it was charming and attractive. Cynthia smiled and thanked her. When Ryan asked about the Prince of Solitary Heart, Cynthia explained that her brother disliked such parties and chose not to attend. Just then, two young men approached Ryan and Cynthia, inviting them to dance. Ryan hesitated, wanting to refuse, but Cynthia eagerly accepted and took one of the men's hands, surprising Ryan. Ryan hesitated for a moment, then politely declined the other young man, claiming her leg hurt. Alone, she watched Cynthia dance happily, wondering if she should go get some refreshments. As she stood there, she overheard guests whispering, discussing a recent rumor. They gossiped that Sharon Crescent, the younger daughter of the Crescent family, was said to be pursuing the crown prince. Some pointed out that Sharon was not even of true Crescent blood, but had been brought into the family, brought in by the Duke's second wife. They criticized her ambition, calling it greedy. Others thought Ryan, the eldest daughter of the Crescent family, would be a more suitable match for the crown prince. However, someone brought up past rumors suggesting Ryan had cognitive deficiencies. Another guest quickly refuted this, mentioning the rumor had long been cleared up, especially after what happened at yesterday's ball. After finishing her dance, Cynthia excitedly returned to Ryan. Ryan asked her how many songs she had danced. Cynthia wasn't sure, but estimated around 6. Ryan was happy she had enjoyed herself. Suddenly, all the lights in the palace went out. The guests instantly fell into a panic. People screamed in terror, unsure of what was happening. Ryan, too, was alarmed, searching for Cynthia in the darkness, calling her name. Just then, a mysterious man dressed in black approached Ryan, saying ominously, "This will hurt a little." Hearing this, Ryan was terrified. Before she could react, she collapsed into the man's arms. Her bracelet fell to the ground and shattered, and her mask slipped off. As her consciousness faded, Ryan could only wonder in confusion what on earth had happened to her. After the incident, a terrified Cynthia explained to Leupold that the lights had suddenly gone out. She heard something break, and when the lights came back on, Miss Adrianna had disappeared. Hearing this, Leupold was furious. He berated his guards for allowing an assassin to infiltrate the palace during the ball. He demanded to know who was in charge of security. A frightened guard bowed and apologized. Leupold then analyzed the situation, pointing out that since it was a masquerade ball and everyone was wearing masks, yet the assassin had specifically targeted Mississippi Crescent. Cynthia wondered if the target was Duchess Crescent. Leupold then realized it was Cynthia who had suggested switching hair colors. He concluded that the assassin was actually after the silver-haired girl, meaning the real target was Princess Cynthia. Shocked, Cynthia struggled to accept this startling revelation. Leupold confirmed that Mississippi Crescent had been kidnapped in place of the imperial princess. Ryan regained consciousness to the sound of people arguing. One person shouted in frustration, realizing they had kidnapped the wrong person, while another insisted she had silver hair at the ball. A man named Kill, who seemed to be in charge, angrily slapped a subordinate for the mistake. When Ryan fully awoke, she recognized Kill and accused him of kidnapping her. Kill sighed, admitting it was a mistake, but said he couldn't let her go now. He then drew his sword, holding it to Ryan's throat, saying this must have always been her fate. The frightened Ryan asked if Borugard knew. Kill scoffed, retorting why a dying person would ask that. Ryan argued that since she was about to die, it wouldn't matter if he told her or not. After a moment's hesitation, Kill admitted Borugard didn't know, that he had acted on his own, and that Borugard would probably kill him if he found out he had harmed Ryan. Just then, Borugard arrived, ordering Kill to lower his sword. Kill hesitated but relented under Borugard's stern warning. Borugard said he didn't want to lose a capable soldier over this. However, Kill insisted that since Ryan now knew their identities, they had to eliminate her immediately. Borugard coldly reminded Kill that he had acted on his own, without orders. Borugard cast a spell, questioning if Kill really intended to kill an innocent girl to cover up his subordinate's mistake, warning that he didn't want to test if Kill's sword was faster than his magic. Kill, realizing he had no choice, lowered his sword, and insisted that everything he did was for the demon race. Borugard coldly retorted that kidnapping the princess to pressure the emperor was a flawed plan. Some monarchs don't care about their daughter's safety, and such examples aren't hard to find. Kill frustratingly argued that the Demon King had always cared for the princess, but Borugard dismissed it, saying that regardless of intent, the situation had ended in the worst possible way. He then ordered Kill to open the door. Borugard entered the room, knelt beside Ryan, and asked if she was hurt. Ryan, still shaken, replied that she felt a bit dizzy, but was otherwise fine. Borugard apologized for her involvement and then told her they should leave. Ryan silently agreed, and they walked out into the morning light. The sky's colors were like dusk, and Ryan slowly regained her senses. She noticed the reddish glow in the sky and wondered how long she had been unconscious. Borugard told her it was morning, but due to the unique environment of the demon world, the sun couldn't rise properly, causing the sky to appear red even during the day. Ryan observed the eerie atmosphere, saying it felt like perpetual twilight. Borugard agreed, but explained that the demon world lacked sufficient sunlight, which affected its ecosystem. Grains grew poorly, plants and animals lacked proper nutrition, and the demon race had no choice but to rely on mineral resources to survive. Hearing this, Ryan began to connect the dots. She realized that the demon race, struggling for survival, must have resorted to extreme measures. She speculated the real purpose of kidnapping the princess was to pressure the human empire into handing over land capable of sustaining life. Borugard remained silent, neither confirming nor denying her assumption, letting Ryan grasp the harsh reality of the demon world's desperate situation. Borugard clarified that the kidnapping was not to force humans to give up land. It was a response to the emperor breaking a promise. Ryan, curious yet hesitant, wondered what kind of promise he was referring to. He admitted he never believed kidnapping the princess would be effective, explaining that rulers view their children merely as pawns, valuing power more than their safety. Ryan noticed a hint of sadness in his expression, but decided not to press further. Borugard then offered to take her for a walk in the human world to let her see the sunlight. As they prepared to leave, he commented, her hair had returned to its original color as the magic dye faded. Ryan was surprised, and she blushed when he complimented that black hair suited her better. Considering the circumstances, she found his words unexpected. She felt flustered, silently wondering why he would say such a thing. So suddenly, Ryan questioned Borugard's words, pointing out that while she was grateful for being rescued, it was his people who had put her in danger in the first place. Borugard sincerely apologized and promised that nothing similar would happen again. She then asked if this meant he had given up on kidnapping the imperial princess, or if it simply meant he wouldn't harm her. In response, Borugard knelt before her, assuring her of both, emphasizing that the demon race always keeps its promises. Seeing him kneel, Ryan called his name in shock, but Borugard took her hand and solemnly swore that as long as he lived, she would always be safe. No matter what happened, he promised never to harm her. After returning safely to the human world with Borugard, Ryan was questioned about the culprits who kidnapped her. However, she claimed she was too frightened to remember anything. She chose not to reveal Borugard and Kill's involvement to prevent the situation from escalating. It seemed the imperial prince had the same idea, as the matter was quietly resolved by dismissing some palace guards and knights. Although the case was officially closed, Ryan suspected the emperor might have sensed something. Nevertheless, Prince Leupold and Princess Cynthia acted as if nothing unusual had occurred. A few days after the kidnapping incident, Ryan was recuperating at home, recovering from the ordeal. As Ryan admired the flowers in the garden, she enjoyed their lovely fragrance and considered taking a walk further. Just then, Sharon approached her with a displeased expression. Sharon coldly told Ryan that she didn't have to come back, adding that someone like her would be better off never returning if kidnapped. She insisted that no one was happy about her return. Deep down, Ryan agreed with Sharon, but she calmly replied that if she had truly disappeared completely, her brother would have been extremely worried, possibly even abandoning his studies to rush back, blaming himself deeply for not being by her side. Because her brother was kind-hearted, he would likely feel guilty and might even decide to stay and inherit the family business. Hearing this, Sharon reacted as if struck a nerve, becoming agitated. She slapped the flowers from Ryan's hand and screamed at Ryan, calling her words utter nonsense, saying her brother would never become the head of the family. Sharon sneered, questioning if Ryan naively believed her mother would willingly give up her position as the matriarch. Realizing Ryan firmly believed her brother would return, Sharon intensified her mockery, calling it a pipe dream and viciously declaring that as long as she and her mother were around, Ryan's brother wouldn't dare set foot in the house. Sharon cackled triumphantly, deriving pleasure from Ryan's pain, but Ryan silently vowed that Sharon was the one who would disappear like a nightmare, and her brother would definitely return. Ryan was standing in the garden when Leah approached, saying a messenger had brought something for her. The messenger bowed respectfully to Ryan, presented a bouquet of flowers, and explained that a gentleman had asked him to deliver the bouquet to the young lady of the house. Ryan was puzzled, wondering who sent them. Before she could speak, Sharon immediately rushed out, assuming the gift was for her. She arrogantly declared that since it was for a young lady of the Crescent family, it must be for her, and demanded the messenger hand over the bouquet. However, the messenger firmly corrected her, stating that the flowers were indeed for Miss Ryan, specifically emphasizing that the sender had indicated they were for a young lady with black hair. This infuriated and puzzled Sharon, who immediately started questioning him. Sharon angrily demanded to know who sent the gift, even guessing it was the second prince, and threatened to have the messenger whipped if he didn't reveal the sender's identity. But the messenger maintained his professionalism, merely apologizing and saying he couldn't disclose the client's information. Sharon felt greatly insulted and flew into a rage. However, the messenger calmly warned Sharon that if she dared to lay a finger on him, his master would not let the matter rest. This warning startled Sharon, and a look of incredulous fear appeared on her face. She shrieked insolent, somewhat lacking in confidence. And then, still fuming, Sharon deliberately bumped into Ryan as she left. Ryan gritted her teeth in anger at her rude behavior. After completing his task, the messenger politely bid Ryan farewell. Ryan, regaining her composure, nodded. Beside her, Leo whispered that the messenger must be from a powerful family. Otherwise, given Sharon's temper, she would never have let him off so easily. Ryan deeply agreed. If Sharon were to be rude to someone from such a family, it would only bring trouble to their entire household. Only then did Ryan notice a card attached to the bouquet. She was somewhat surprised Sharon hadn't snatched that as well, and Leah showed the same surprise. When Ryan saw the emblem of the Magnolia Merchant Guild on the card, she immediately knew it was from Ken. Opening it, she found an invitation to a street play, but strangely, it was only for one person. Ryan couldn't help but wonder what Count Kenneth Relampago meant by sending such a solo invitation. Just then, Leah ran over excitedly, handing Ryan a stack of letters, saying the post office had been holding them for her. Ryan thanked her and eagerly began to look through them, quickly recognizing her brother Theodore's handwriting. In the letter, Theodore expressed his extreme shock and worry about her kidnapping, saying he had wanted to drop everything and rush back to the capital immediately. It was Ramona who had calmed him down. He was relieved to hear of Ryan's safe return, but his words were filled with regret and self-blame for not being there to protect her, and he apologized for not being able to return home for the time being. Reading the letter, Ryan couldn't help but smile, thinking her brother must be very busy right now. She knew that during this time, Theodore, along with Ramona and Claudian, was quelling a rebellion in the celestial realm. She continued reading. In the letter, Theodore expressed his wish for her happiness and mentioned he had sent her something, hoping it would protect her in his absence. He promised to write again and urged her to take good care of herself, signing off with your loving brother. Curious, Ryan fumbled inside the envelope and indeed found a smaller envelope. Opening it, a necklace lay quietly inside, a gift from her brother, Theodore. Ryan opened the locket of the necklace, and when she saw the portrait of her mother inside, she was overwhelmed with emotion, tears welling up in her eyes. She was utterly shocked. Lady Marian had clearly disposed of all of her mother's belongings years ago, and she had thought she would never find anything related to her mother again. She never expected her brother Theodore to have secretly kept such a precious memento. Ryan was moved beyond words, silently vowing to cherish the necklace forever. Afterwards, Ryan went to the meeting place according to the address Ken had written on the invitation. The event was about to start, and she didn't understand why he had asked her to come here. Clutching the necklace tightly, she walked inside, noticing the bustling crowd. When the performance began, she looked towards the stage and was completely stunned when she saw Ken performing on stage.